With anti-Semitic attacks rising nationally, the government has pledged to help fund extra security in schools and synagogues. The Jewish New Year is now just around the corner, and JC Normand has been spending time with Manchester's Jewish community to find out how they are responding to an increase in hate crime. This film contains images of a graphic nature.
Thousands of incidents of hate crime were recorded across the country following the UK's decision to leave the EU. But the Jewish community in Manchester have been facing attacks on schools, cemeteries and individuals for a long time. Manchester has one of the biggest Jewish communities in the country. For many, it was a safe haven from persecution after the Second World War.
The advance guard of the first 5,000 Jewish and non-Aryan child refugees from Germany to be provided with a temporary home here.
But some people in our region have felt a rise in tension.
I was attacked, punched in the face, have been threatened, but usually it's verbal abuse.
There's definitely a growing fear in the community because we're all aware of the increasing attacks locally.
There are definitely places where I wouldn't feel safe to walk with a kippah on my head.
Hate crime in Greater Manchester, and in fact across the UK, really sort of tears away the fabric of our society. And I think
Gary Shewan is the national policing lead on anti-Semitism. He works closely with the Jewish community to encourage the reporting of incidents.
Well, in the last 12 months, there's been about 150 anti-Semitic incidents, crimes reported to Greater Manchester Police. We have seen here in Greater Manchester a significant amount of private security increase around religious sites and around our schools. And I think that's crucial to give confidence to the communities that, their children go to school safe.
In March this year, so-called Islamic State was reportedly planning attacks on Jewish schools in Turkey, according to intelligence officials. This has led to calls for increased security at British schools. Here at King David's High School in Manchester, security has been increased over the last 12 months to protect children against acts of anti-Semitism, but also to protect them against the threat of terrorism. They now have 60 CCTV cameras, an improved alarm system and 24-hour surveillance.
Well, Rabbi Rittman, I can see you standing near that very tall fence. How tight is security at King David's School?
It is very tight compared to regular schools where anyone can just drive in off the street and park in the school car park. Here we have fencing around the building. There are several guard huts at the different entrances to the school. There are cameras set up around the perimeter of the school to monitor who's coming in or going out.
Is security any tighter here than anywhere else at any other Jewish school?
I think Jewish schools across the country have relatively very high standards of security. We've also recently had new alarms put in on the roof of the school and all around the building to evacuate the students, to bring them inside. If the school, God forbid, was attacked from the outside, then we don't want students running out the building like in a fire. We want them to run in the building, and we've had drills and we've been given briefings of how to conduct ourselves, make sure that we're safe, the students are safe. We've reached a level that the security is very tight. Nobody wants to see what goes on maybe in America or in Israel with armed guards, and it's unnerving, but it's important.
Do you think this anti-Semitic behaviour that people are experiencing within the community is specifically targeted to people who look overtly Jewish?
Somebody who's easily identifiable as a Jew is more of a target. The same way somebody who's easily identifiable as a Muslim will be an easy target for, Islamophobia.
Rabbi Arnold Saunders has experienced anti-Semitic attacks firsthand.
Once I was attacked, punched in the face, literally outside the very synagogue we are now, and have been threatened with all sorts of dire things, including being killed. But usually it's verbal abuse. I've had eggs thrown at me, I've had stones thrown at my car, but I've very rarely felt a personal threat to my own safety. And I'm certainly not going to give in to people by saying, well, I don't feel safe, I'm out of here.
When things kick off.
But some, like Rabbi Benjamin Rickman, are more cautious.
There are definitely places where I wouldn't feel safe to walk with a kippah on my head or dressed in Sabbath clothes, I think I would feel it would be foolish to walk in a place where you look obviously different from everybody around you, and then almost become a target for those that want to target those that are different. But that's not to suggest that Jews should hide from, practicing our faith in its fuller sense, but just to be sensible and to be aware.
Amanda Bomsztyk is the Northern Regional Director of the Community Security Trust, a charity that provides private security for Jewish centres and schools in our region.
There is an incident at least on average once or twice a day nationally, and locally that transpires to possibly once a day. Unfortunately, it's constant.
For some, social media has become a device used to harass, threaten and abuse. 133 anti-Semitic incidents online were reported in the first 6 months of 2016. That's nearly a quarter of all cases reported to the charity.
The level of incidents coming through social media are growing, and they are far more challenging to deal with because of the sheer volume of them. We work really hard with people like Facebook and Twitter to ensure that when things do come online that we have good relationships with them to get things removed as quickly as possible.
To help tackle this problem, the CST regularly exchanges data with Greater Manchester Police.
Sometimes the people who are posting are anonymous, they hide their identity. It's difficult sometimes to track who they are. Sometimes we may even need to go to court to get an order to identify, the computer in which it was generated. So, online hate crime and online anti-Semitism does bring a significant challenge. It is a growing problem. It is a problem that we're very aware of and one that we need to put more resources into.
Mohammed Amin arranges interfaith education and meetings between Jews and Muslims in Greater Manchester. He's upset that a number of anti-Semitic attacks are carried out by Muslims.
For those where the perpetrator can be identified in terms of their ethnic group, about 30% of perpetrators come from either South Asian or Arab ethnic backgrounds, where obviously they're almost all Muslims. And I find that very discouraging, in particular because if you're the same religion as me, I expect you to live that religion to the full, rather than using it as a basis for getting involved in intercommunal hatred.
Despite this, the police believe Manchester is still a really welcoming place.
I think that's true in 2016 as it was in the 1940s. And I think as a result of which, I think the Jewish community feels very settled here, feels very comfortable here. And I think we'll see increased levels of Jewish communities from across the world looking, on in Greater Manchester with a real desire that will be replicated where they live too.
I love my life in Britain. I actually feel very British, and I'm grateful for the peace that I'm allowed to live in Great Britain.
Naomi Lopian is the child of 2 Holocaust survivors. Her father was held in 7 different concentration camps and 5 transit camps over 4.5 years during the Second World War. Her mother was a hidden child and was questioned at gunpoint by the Gestapo. She now feels threatened in this current climate.
There's been a rise in the extremists' activities and terror all around Europe done by the same groups, the Islamist extremists, and this does frighten me. Yeah, I feel that we are #1 target.
Would it ever make you consider leaving Manchester?
I was 13 years of age when I came here, and Manchester became a haven. It was my place of healing. It's where I've created my family and where I have my friends and a wonderful community. I'd be extremely reluctant to leave Manchester, and it would sadden me and change me forever.
If attacks continue to increase, what will you do?
If our lives are being threatened, then I will have to move. I never thought that 71 years on from the Holocaust we would have this rise so soon again.